Hey everybody, Chris here from It's Mead Made, and today I'm going to give a tour of my studio and show you some of the stuff I have and what I do with that stuff. But first off, I just want to say thank you for all my subscribers and thank you for coming back. And if you're not a subscriber, that message was not for you. If you want it to be for you, feel free to hit the subscribe button, then it's totally for you. So I was going to show you immediately, but my shop is also a disaster. So I am going to do a quick time lapse of me cleaning up my studio and kind of show you everything that I've got going on in here. Alright, so here we go with the cleaning of the mess. Alright, so I have finished cleaning the studio. It took me a little longer than I thought, but the key here is I have organization for everything, and that is one thing I cannot drive home enough, as if you've got a studio and you've got like a space where you keep everything, organization is key, because you very well know in this hobby there is a lot of stuff that you can have to be able to make things easier on you and all of that stuff. So, alright, I am going to go ahead and just kind of give you a general tour of my studio and how I've set it up, and kind of give you a background. We just moved in August, and the house we moved in had this small little finished, well, somewhat finished room in the basement. So I kind of took it over and it became my studio slash man cave slash I want to be alone and paint my stuff. So my last house, I actually shared the playroom with our kids in the basement, so it was a completely finished basement, and the downstairs was half the playroom with the kids, and then the other half was 3D printing and painting. So there was many a times where I had Legos all in my paint stuff and any other kind of action figures set up near my 3D printers or on them. So now I have a dedicated room and I don't have to worry about anything. But the other thing about that is, well, if it's messy, it's my fault, no one else's. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and show you everything, and I'll just start with my 3D printers behind me. So I have 4 FDM 3D printers. I have an Ender 3 and 2 Ender 3 Pros and 1 CR-10. And you can see 2 of them are running right now. These 2 are down for maintenance because I have had some extrusion issues, and if you can see, also some nozzle issues where there's been clogs, and this thing literally, you can see here, that is a solid block of plastic. That was a fun night of me coming downstairs in the morning of just it printing nonstop when it first started. So number 1 tip, don't just hit print and walk away, because this thing was working beautifully, and then I just hit print again for the second layer of this clock house that I'm building or printing. So right here you can see I've got this shelf I bought at Lowe's, and it's just a great shelf because it holds all my 3D printers. I've actually got lights wired into it, and so when I turn off all my lights I can still have this on. And just to kind of run down and see what's going on, Right now I'm printing some houses for some D&D, and I'll show you what I've been printing completely. But These are actually these models. The cool thing about these is this is actually supposed to be 4 prints because this half and this half are separate, but you can kind of see a faint line right here. I don't know if you can, but I actually just stuck them together in Cura and made them one model. So down here you can see that I have a dry tub for my filament. This is where I keep all my good filament that is opened. I have another little tub that has all of my tools for 3D printing and any other random things I need for 3D printing. Like I've got all of my main tools right here that I use all the time, and my feeler gauge for leveling. Then I also just keep all of my boxes of unopened filament underneath here. When we first moved to the new house, I actually bought a bunch of this filament. It's GST 3D filament that you might have seen it. It's for like $7.99, but you got to buy 20 spools. So it was basically like the cost of me buying, 10 of these spools, and I got 20. So I was like, let's try it. And let's just say I've never had problems on this printer, this printer, this printer, or this printer until I started printing with this. It isn't very good. So I actually had to order new nozzles and a bunch of other stuff that I'm waiting to come in, hopefully tomorrow, to get this gone out of my 3D printers. But I probably will do a review on it. I'm not happy with it. I used quite a bit of spools of it, but it's pretty much junk, and I'm not going to put it back in my printer. Now I switch back to my true and faithful Inland PLA. This is from Micro Center, so you can see Micro Center. I have one near me, and it's 16 bucks a spool, and it is amazing. I have never had any problems printing it, as you can see right here. So that's pretty much my shelf right here, and then also I got a nice little space to display some of my prints and paints, and Cyclops has taken a dive. And there we go. So yeah, you can see right there. And of course, shout out to Zodiac Nozzles and Capricorn. Love it. I've got a new Bowden tube of Capricorn coming, so I can actually replace my Ender 3. Alright, so moving on. Every person should have one of these. If they don't, some kind of tote to put all of your failures in. I always like to keep it close just so I can throw all of my filament in there and then eventually recycle it. So this is kind of my mess area right now. I'm still kind of working on construction on this room because I've got to stain this door, because I stained this door gray to match the room. I still have to do it to this door. So it's a small little closet, but I don't really have any organization for this room yet. I'm planning on putting all of these little bins here for all of my 3D printing and any other related stuff. Moving on over here. So this right here is my big setup that I created. I bought 2 of these shelves at Lowe's. And the great thing about these shelves is they actually interconnect. So these shelves are actually fully attached to each other. And what I have here is this side is all of my resin printing, and that side is my spray booth for airbrush that I built, and I'll get into that. But you can see that I've got enough storage on top to put some of my stuff that I have not finished painting yet. I cannot wait to finish these things. And then I do have some of my finished things up here. Yeah, if you can't tell, I like some Pokemon. Here's a special shout out to Mar Pros. He did these awesome models, and he keeps making more and more sweet models that I definitely need to print and paint. But he is a great guy. Definitely recommend you looking at his stuff. So here is the resin area that I have created. I bought some of these cheap lights. They're LED lights. I've got one here, I've got one there, and I've got one here. They are fantastic. I think I spent maybe 30 bucks on them. I think that one was $30 because it's a little bigger, but these two, I think I spent 40 on Amazon and got 2 of them. But they are fantastic. Great way to just bring a lot of light to the area. Because for the stuff that, you know, we do in this hobby, it's always great to have it like the surface of the sun. So here is my Anycubic, my Photon resin printer, and also my wash station. So here is my basic setup. Is I have a silicone mat, so this is kind of the resin area. I don't touch anything in here unless I have gloves on, and I always have gloves at the ready. And then up here I have like my tray with all my wash stuff, my resin, and any other stuff, because you can kind of see that I definitely keep it on a tray. That way I don't get anything contaminated, because I definitely want to keep my resin separate from everything else in the room. Then up here I have little storage bins for just about everything, and me being OCD, I label everything. I think the labels for these on the other side. But unpainted print. But yeah, you can see that I just kind of have these little things for storage. I try to utilize every space I can, just because it's helpful for organization. When I need to find something, I know where it's at. And you can see right here, these are what I'm printing. I started playing D&D with my boys, and our next campaign is we are going into a town for the first time, and I have no actual buildings that I've 3D printed. I've got a ton of scatter and terrain and everything like that, but no buildings. And so I found these on Thingiverse. I actually found the artist that does this on Thingiverse, and he actually has his own Patreon. So for a few bucks a month, I get even more of these cool buildings that they're really sweet. I am going to do a tutorial series on how I paint these buildings, because I have painted a few buildings in the past, and they turned out really good, but they weren't for me. So I'm going to go ahead and explain my process of painting them and making them look super cool. So you can see here, back here I've got a tavern that's multiple layers. So you can see there's the tavern, then they just stack on top of each other, and then the lid comes off. But yeah, it's going to be super cool. I did have some blue extra filament that I was just trying to get rid of, and you can see here, that's how much filament I had left. And then the big old paint booth that I made. I actually built this out of plywood, and what I did was measured this exact space of how big it is and how tall it is. Then I basically made just a big old box, and then I put some slats, angled slats here, you can see, to put my filters in. Then I put a hole in the very top for my ventilation system. So my ventilation, it just sucks up straight through here and draws up, but you can see a little angle right there, and that is actually for the ventilation of my Anycubic, so I can draw the ventilation out. Then it kind of goes up here into this big fan and goes straight outside. So I have everything pretty much just blown right outside, because the one thing is before I came into this room, I actually had to have glass block installed because it was just like a flip out window that came out. So I definitely had to have my ventilation. So now I got these pretty glass block right there. So you can see right here, I basically just cover this with butcher paper, and I replace this every so often. Once it starts getting really dirty, I just got this put down. And then I have all of my materials, so like all of my inks, here we go, all of my inks for airbrush cleaner, obviously. I've got my airbrushes right here, and then I just have my little compressor down here. And you know, with my DIY thinner, and I also have primers and things like that. And I always have this little stool in here, which I love because I can just move it from here to work or move it over here to work. And then down here you can see it's just more storage. I've got toys that I haven't figured out where I'm putting yet, and then more storage, and then all of my electronic stuff and additional gloves for resin printing. Then over here, it doesn't look like much, but it is just a table. This is my table where I put my turntable on and display my models after I'm done painting them to show them on Instagram or here on YouTube. And lastly, the best part, my workstation. I know everybody really likes to see everybody's workstations. I put a lot of time and thought into this just because of my last little paint space that I had in the rec room or kids play room, and I really wanted to have everything displayed because my biggest problem always was trying to find the right colors and what I needed when I was in the middle of painting, because nothing can be more of a pain in the butt than actually trying to find where your blue is that you had. Like my midnight blue, where is it at? Now I just gotta look and be like, oh, right here, there's my midnight blue. So this is pretty much it. I've got my silicone mat that I paint on. I am a huge advocate of silicone mats because you just gotta put some water to it and wipe it down and the acrylic paint comes right off, and other things. And same thing for this acrylic mat. The only difference is I'll actually take this and then I will just go lay it outside for like an afternoon and let it cure and then wipe it down, and then it's perfectly clean again. And you can get these on Amazon. They are super cheap. I think like maybe $8 or $9 or something like that. At least when I first bought mine. I've had this for a really long time. Moving on to show you some of the detailed stuff. I've got my paint stuff that I haven't cleaned yet. It's gross because I kind of had a paint job and then I left and haven't been down in like a few weeks just because of the holidays. I've got all of my paints. I've actually 3D printed all of these paint holders. You can see here, I just found the model on Thingiverse, so just pegboard, I think I just searched pegboard craft paint bottle holder, and I went ahead and counted how many paints I had, and 3D printed them. So I have quite a bit. It's a nice pegboard. I love pegboards. Then that same modeler also had them for dropper bottles and even for rub and buff, and it's fantastic, honestly. They also had these little trays that I found that I just 3D printed for my ball bearings that I put in here for shakers. It is fantastic. Then obviously I got my wet palette, and I've got my bottle of water I'm drinking, and this is one little addition that I recently put since I've been down here, which I absolutely love. It's not because it's cold down here, because this room is right outside the furnace and I have a vent in here, so it stays a perfect temperature. I know a lot of people have issues with keeping a regulated temperature for their 3D printers, but this room is honestly just built for this. And I added this because it has a fan feature, and what I'll do is just turn that on, and then I'll actually get my turntable, put my painted piece on my turntable and let it spin and let that dry while I'm doing something else. And it just kind of speeds up my process, which I really love. But a little space heater, I don't know why I'd never thought about it, and probably everybody does this, but I just never thought about it. And then the other thing I have is down there I have a heat gun for any times that I need to warp or fix any 3D prints. Like this, for instance, I actually printed a bunch of these little rickety bridges, even though they are supposed to be docks, but I turn it into a rickety bridge, and what I do is I hit it with my heat gun to be able to get like a nice flex to it, and then I can set it in between like a chasm for D&D terrain, but it's super fun. And then I just have a bunch of drawers that you can see here that I put all of my other random things in. And yes, that is my Prius floor mat, which I bought one and then I immediately got new floor mats, and everybody always comments on my Prius floor mat. And this is just a holder for my laptop, so when I'm working or doing any kind of lives, I can have my laptop up. And if you noticed my microphone over there, so people can hear me, I just plug it all in together, and then I can show what I'm doing. But this is my studio. And the other thing, oh, almost forgot, my glasses. I get asked about these all the time. Here is the brand. They're just generic brand. My wife bought these for me. And I use these every paint job, every single one. These things are fantastic. And they also came with multiple lenses that I can swap out at different magnifications. For painting minis and things like this, I don't see how you could paint it without it. And I wear glasses, and it is even a struggle with my bifocals. So with these, it's just, you can see every little nook and cranny and get in there. But yeah, so that is my studio. So that's pretty much it. That's the studio. I hope you really like it. If you have any questions about anything you've seen, or you want to see a little more about one specific thing, or me talk about something specific, feel free to ask me, and I definitely will go into as much depth as I physically can. Since this was like a 20-minute or something video, I assume, just showing you my room that I made, because everything in here was custom made, and I laid it out myself, just trying to figure out what works for me. So thanks for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you're not a subscriber, please feel free to hit subscribe. And if you don't like anything you've seen, well, thanks for watching it anyway. And we'll see you next time. Bye.